today and feeling a little more pleasant in the sunshine too. Highs of 19 or 20 degrees in the south. As we then go through Sunday evening, we will still see some showers around. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, these will be very light and scattered, and there'll be plenty of late sunshine as well. However, across parts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, we could still see one or two heavier downpours as we go through Sunday evening. Scotland could also see some heavy downpours as we go through the evening period. One or two rumbles of thunder are likely too, but there will still be some clear spells between those showers to end the day on Sunday. As we then go through Sunday evening, those showers continue to push their way eastwards through the evening period, turning drier from the southwest into the early hours of Monday morning. Still one or two showers just feeding in across the very far north and west of Scotland, but it should be a dry night for most of us, plenty of clear spells and perhaps turning a little chilly in some rural spots as we go into the start of Monday, although towns and cities are generally holding up into the high single figures. But another dry and bright start for many of us on Monday morning, plenty of early sunshine on offer. One or two showers again bubbling up through the afternoon, but these are notched down compared to what we saw over the weekend. However, turning cloudier across parts of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, as we see an area of rain arriving through the afternoon. And feeling a little warmer in the sunshine across the south too, with highs of 20, 21, perhaps even 22 degrees.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Cass Review, which was last March, April, a very accomplished paediatrician, Baroness Cass, who effectively said, we've got to stop giving children who think they might be trans, rushing them into treatment, avoiding them having pills that can change their body. And now it seems the NHS is still treating nursery-age children. Nursery age. These are toddlers who believe they're transgender. Now, they're not giving them any drugs, but the mere idea, why are mum and dad even going along with it?
It's things like a boy that wants to wear dresses and play with dolls.
Let him.
It's things like a girl who wants to kick a football and maybe have her hair short. And the problem is, I think the parents are the ones behind this,
of course.
Obviously. You either say, this is normal, and children play around with gender roles as they have done since the beginning of time. You don't march them off to the doctor and get their heads looked at by a psychiatrist. And why are they doing it? Well, because they are reading that it's normal now, they're confused, they lack confidence as parents to say no.
Well, apparently, the health service had set a minimum age of 7 for children to be seen by specialist gender clinics. I think that's too young, frankly.
Unbelievable.
7, far too young. Claiming anything else less was just too young. But that limit's now been removed after the proposal was put up to consultation. And you know why? Because the wretched trans lobby have lobbied and put pressure on the NHS. So you've now got 3-year-olds being talked to about their gender. For God's sake, what are we doing to our children?
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning and welcome to the Camilla Tominey Show. What a week it's been with dear Yusuf leaving Reform and then returning, as well as the end of the bromance between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. From Labour, I'm going to be joined by Peter Carr, the Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology. I'm going to be asking him about record small boat crossings and whether blasphemy laws are making a comeback in the UK. From the Conservatives, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp will join me. Are the Tories finally preparing to back leaving the European Convention on Human Rights? Who would have thought it? And after coming fourth in the Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse by-election, are Reform UK now the natural party for unionists? We'll also speak to Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform, about Zia Youssef's astonishing return just 48 hours after quitting as party chair. What on earth is going on with that party? Plus, I'll be joined by Greg Swenson, who's the chairman of the Republicans Overseas UK. He's going to bring us the very latest from the White House. And former Foreign Secretary and Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, is going to be here to discuss his new book and why he believes Britain is still capable of shaping the world we live in. As ever, we've got 90 minutes of punchy politics to come, so do not even think of going anywhere. Before that, we've got a stellar set of Sunday papers to get through, and joining me now to do that is the chief political commentator at The Eye, Kitty Donaldson. Hello, Kitty.
Hello.
Lovely to see you this morning.
You too.
Shall we start by discussing the reform of Zia Youssef? After flouncing out on Friday, he's back.
Yes, he's calmed down a bit, or had a rest, maybe had a nap.
To be fair, I'm sympathetic if he's been getting a load of grief because he's a Muslim and some people don't agree with him, and I think the Rupert Lowe saga kind of dredged the filth that is the kind of in the cesspool of social media. It all rises to the top when something like that happens.
Yes, that's true. I think the whole party actually didn't really sleep during the local election campaign and the Runcorn and Helsby, and I think we're sort of seeing a kind of a sort of breathing after the event, and everyone's sort of re-establishing where they are and thinking about, gosh, that was a lot, wasn't it? And I think probably he took a lot of abuse on social media, so poor bloke. But equally, he's come back and now they're giving him 4 jobs.
I know, but he's not going to be chairman. I'll ask Richard Tice when he comes on later who might be chairman. I think they're going to announce that this week. In general, how damaging do you think the saga's been for reform?
I don't think anyone will notice,
No.
eventually. Do you?
Westminster bubble story?
Yeah, I mean, taken with the Rupert Lowe defenestration, I think there is a kind of wider question about whether reform can hold it together, and that will play out in the next few years. I mean, there's also a sort of internal interesting thing, which I'm sure you'll get into with Richard, which is Nigel Farage and Youssef very close personally, and actually if you go to the speeches, Nigel's always very, very keen to praise him. He makes a point of it every time he speaks.
Yeah, they're almost fatherly and son, actually. Within that organisation, they're extremely close. It was nothing to do with any personal beef between them, but do you think that's a problem? He's too close?
Not too close, but I think their relationship doesn't reflect the wider party, perhaps.
Yes.
And so I've heard complaints of sort of autocratic kind of decisions being handed down. I'm sure you have too. So I think it'd be interesting. And as don't forget, the party's still very young, isn't it? So as they go through these sort of teething troubles and we get closer to the election, I think we will see an increased sort of professionalisation, but they do need to start having these squabbles in public.
They do.
Yeah.
I thought I did write about it, and I said the manner of his last tweet, you know, saying, oh, well, this isn't a good use of my time, I thought was rather petty and petulant.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've all got over that. Let's move on to Labour's woes. The Sun on Sunday are reporting on a war of the roses between Rachel Reeves and Angela Rayner. It might just be a convenient headline, but there's something in this as we look forward to the spending review on Wednesday, isn't there?
Yes. So Rachel Reeves for Leeds and Yorkshire Reds, Angela Rayner, white. I mean, lovely medieval kind of metaphor there. This row has been going on for some weeks now as they head towards the spending review. Angela Rayner, the Deputy Leader, who also leads on housing, hasn't settled her department's budget yet, nor is Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary. And we think these talks are going to the wire because if you protect the NHS and you boost defence spending, then, of course, everything that's not protected falls away. And we're seeing some reports today that Rachel Reeves is going to prioritise schools. I mean, she always talks about the reason she went into politics is because I think she had to go to school in a sort of prefab hut.
Yes.
And so she wants kids, particularly girls, to have the advantages that she thinks she didn't.
Yeah, she's cut from Bridget Phillipson's cloth on that score, isn't she? Says she had quite a humble upbringing. Then both of them ended up going to, I think they both went to Oxford, didn't they? But there's a lot of concerns in the papers today as well about just government debt and the level of spending, and will government spending ever come down? I'm going to be discussing it with Jeremy Hunt, because we were saying in the Green Room, weren't we, talking about government spending just having gone up and then just stayed at the level it was at COVID, really.
Yeah.
And that's under Tories and Labour. So we've now got Farage announcing, you know, he wants to scrap the 2-child benefit cap and things. Are we just now in an era where any party of any political hue is just quite happy to spend ever greater sums of taxpayers' cash?
I was thinking about this on the way here, actually, and I think the public have changed. I think people think that even since Jeremy Corbyn put forward that manifesto in 2019 and everyone turned around and said, sorry, where's the magic money tree that you're getting all this cash from? I think perhaps the pandemic, when Rishi Sunak bailed everyone out effectively, there's sort of been a shift in public thinking where people expect their needs to be met and sort of don't really care where the money comes from. But equally, there are, I mean, this is where the Tories kind of have to fit in and say, actually, sound money, you know, we're the party of sound money, that's where they want to be. And in fact, Mel Stride was saying that last week, the Shadow Chancellor. But whether anyone wants to hear it, I don't know.
Well, austerity became such a dirty word.
Yeah.
I mean, one person's austerity is another person's efficiency savings.
Yeah.
Maybe it's down to the old Reagan quote about, well, the deficit's big enough to look after itself. You know, we're just all used to being in a degree of debt if it's our credit cards or whatever. It's almost like this intangible government debt, except when we're paying huge amounts of money to pay it back, and with interest rates higher than they were 3 years ago, it's problematic.
And whatever Rachel Reeves says on Wednesday at the spending review, no one in Labour is going to be popping champagne corks at all, because, you know, they're going to be cutting spending on certain areas.
Exactly, not much to celebrate there at all. Badenoch now calling for an office burqa ban. Obviously, this burqa row was part of the reform story. Reform MP Sarah Pochin suggests that the government may want to consider a burqa ban in the House of Commons. Sort of got laughed at, which I thought was ridiculous. I mean, is that the state of public discourse? She can raise it as an idea and we can have a conversation nationally about it, can't we? But are you surprised Badenoch is now grasping the nettle and has decided that perhaps she'll call for burqas to at least be banned in the workplace?
Yeah, I mean, this goes... Yes, you're right, she can raise it. I was surprised, though, for such a new MP to kind of stand up at PMQs, the big outing of the week, and sort of, you know, like chuck a grenade, basically, at the Prime Minister.
Well, it got us some headlines. I'm not sure whether it's the top of the list of priorities for the residents of Runcorn, but...
No, quite. Yes, and then Kemi Badenoch's jumped on this and said she's considering a ban in the workplace, and also that she wouldn't let anyone into her parliamentary office in her constituency wearing a burqa.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit odd, given that she's an Essex MP. I think there's less than 1% of the population in her area are Muslim. Yes. I don't suppose many burqas appear in her office, but it's speaking to a kind of wider concern, I suppose, about the culture wars that the Reform are so good at, right?
Yeah.
And you've got a tension here between people like Mel Stride, who are mentioned, you know, sound money, Tories, a kind of natural party of government, and then Kemi Badenoch talking about the ECHR and also burqas, and it's sort of, if it's not dog whistle, it's something near.
Is it? I don't know. I think it's her saying, look, we are resolutely right-wing and not as wet as our predecessors. We're under new management. I mean, there's an argument within the party, isn't there? Should she pivot towards the Liberal Democrats, because they do have 71 seats?
Yeah.
Or should she just actually try and outgun Farage? I mean, there's sense in both policies in a way. George Osborne's advocating this pivot towards the Lib Dems. It's one for Jeremy Hunt. I'm going to ask him about it later, because he's had this Damascene conversion from being wet to being slightly drier in his new book, so we'll ask him about that.
And he's in a Lib Dem facing area, so he's interesting, yeah.
And then you've got, you know, somebody like Jenrick, who cannot win unless he's Faragian. I mean, will he even remain in the Tories? There could be some more defections, Kitty. Anything could happen. Also, we're talking about there being a next election with a degree of immediacy that's completely misplaced. We've got years. We've got years more for this, Kitty.
I know. But do you feel like politics feels like it's sped up quite a lot, though?
Yeah, it seems to be speeding up because of social media and everything being digested and dealt with in a... Look at Dawn French yesterday, you know. An outburst and an apology within 24 to 48 hours.
And Zia coming, you know.
And Zia, yes, the return of Zia.
Yeah.
Very quickly, because I know you were angered by this story, as was I, on the front of the Mail on Sunday.
Yeah.
Two-tier healthcare. This is about a private school pupil that has been denied NHS care because he goes to private school.
I know. Absolutely extraordinary story.
Isn't it?
Yes, this kid in southwest London, Kingston, I think, and he's got something wrong with his arms, hypermobility, referred to the NHS. The NHS wrote a letter or sent a text, I think, to the mum saying, no, we won't treat him, we won't even see him, because he goes to private school. And the mother, rightly, in my view, has kicked up a fuss. Absolutely outrageous that you should be denied access to healthcare based on where your child is educated.
Yeah, it's as if people who educate their children at private schools don't pay their NI and tax.
Yes, exactly, yes.
This is meant to be equal to all.
Yeah.
That was the whole idea behind it when it was invented in 1945. And it follows, doesn't it, from a story suggesting that, wasn't it young people being treated for cancer? If you went to a state school, you got the tuition on the state, but if you went to a private school, you didn't.
Yes. And I think this is a sort of worrying development that the sort of education policy is seeping into health policy when actually the two are...
Yeah.
As we know, that it's quite hard to get private healthcare. And the two don't go together.
This is what happens when Labour tend to demonise parents who send their children to private school with the whole row over the VAT.
Yeah.
Kitty Donaldson, thank you very much for joining me this morning. Lovely
Pleasure.
to speak to you. Well, coming up next, I'm going to be joined by the Cabinet Minister, Peter Kyle. Might ask him about this story and many more, so do stick with us. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
High pressure is in charge for much of Europe over the next couple of days, bringing plenty of dry, warm and sunny weather. However, there will still be 1 or 2 showers around, particularly across parts of Madeira, the Canary Islands, as we go through Monday afternoon. But elsewhere, high pressure in charge, bringing dry, sunny and some really warm weather over the next couple of days. We could see temperatures into the high 20s, perhaps even into the low 30s across parts of Spain, Portugal and across parts of Italy too. But plenty of sunshine is on the cards.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show. Joining me now is Peter Kyle, the Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology. Lovely to see you this morning, Mr. Kyle. Thanks so much for joining us on GB News. I was really intrigued by a story featuring you, suggesting that you think that teenagers' social media use should be capped at 2 hours, which was intriguing because I feel that Labour is trying to water down plans to ban mobile phones in schools. Why cap social media hours when you could just ensure that pupils' learning throughout the school day isn't hindered by being on a mobile phone?
I've never tried to stop any withdrawal of use of phones in school hours. Quite the contrary. Children should not have smartphones in schools, and actually 97% of schools at the moment don't have or allow smartphones in there. But what I have been doing is looking at what the child experience is, the youth experience is these days online. We talk a lot about the health of young people offline in the real world, if you like. My starting point for this is trying to figure out what actually incentivises healthy behaviour online. We do need to nail down a few key issues when it comes to safety and security online for young people and all people online, but I also want to look at measures that can incentivise a much healthier life online. So I am looking at those measures. I can't wait to come back to you and talk about them when I'm ready to announce them. But you can see that I'm thinking very deeply about what the youth experience is these days and how we incentivise the best of the internet whilst protecting young people from the worst of it.
All right, but I'm confused on what you're saying about a mobile ban in schools, because the Safer Phones Bill has been watered down to not include that provision, and there's nothing in the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill either. So is Labour banning mobile phones in schools or not?
Sorry, the bill you mentioned was a private member's bill. It was not a government bill. I haven't watered anything down. The government is very clear. Smartphones should not be used in schools.
So are you banning them?
97% of schools don't allow... Well, 97% of schools don't have them in there already. So the directives that are coming out of government, and we have been clear with directives to schools that they shouldn't be allowing smart schools in schools. So what you're saying is, do we legislate for it? Well, actually, we've got a lot of powerful legislation coming through, particularly on crime and order and others. But if we can stop smartphones from being in schools by directing schools not to allow them, then I think that works.
But it's non-binding on schools, so schools can choose whether the children have the phones in class or not, whereas legislation providing for a ban in schools, which is something that other countries have done, we've even had Australia banning social media for under-16s, would make sure that there are no mobile phones in schools. Legislation would be better than a directive, wouldn't it, Mr. Carr?
Well, we've already stopped school phones being used in schools. As I said, 97% of schools already ban phones from being used in school hours. So I honestly, if you think that, right now we have some real urgent pressures on our parliamentary time, and I think parents would expect us to be out there to nail down the safety and security issues of our country at the moment, that we can focus on defence at the moment, that we focus on those really tough issues of getting growth into our economy, for which we all need to legislate for. But we are stopping schools using mobile phones in school hours. I'm looking very carefully about how I, from the technological perspective,
perspective, can incentivise a focus on learning and a focus on more healthy activity online for children and keep them safe. So this is a government that's actually rigorously focused on these things.
OK, I mean, you're absolutely right to say that this audience will certainly want you to be defending the UK. Can you be taken seriously on defence, though, when you can't even control Britain's own borders? Again, record boat crossings, and Labour's response to record boat crossing is, oh, they're only coming because of the weather.
It was the last Labour government that increased spending on defence to 2.5%. It was the Tory government that scrapped that target, and they cut right through our military. It is this Labour government that is increasing our spending once again to 2.5% and has aspirations to go even further than that. So when it comes to defending our country, your viewers can rest assured that whether it is policy, whether it is financial investment, whether it is a steadfast determination to protect our country via our armed forces, it is this government which is delivering.
OK, but what about defending our borders? Labour haven't been doing a very good job of that, have they? Smashing the gangs. We've got more people coming here by dinghy across the Channel than ever before in history, after nearly a year of Labour being in power. So you can't blame the Tories for the last year. It's on your watch.
What you've seen is a reduction in the number of hotels being used to house asylum seekers. Not enough. We need to go much further, and we will go further. What you have seen is an increase by 1/3 of the number of asylum seekers that are being returned from our country. We are getting a grip on our asylum system. We have a long way to go, but the absurdity of the amount of millions that are being spent on hotels as a result of the failure of the last government that had an open borders experiment, we have to get a grip on that, and we are. Now, it's going to take time because of the global nature of immigration for us to get all of the agreements, not just to be in place because we have a good agreement with France, but for that to be enforced and in action. We are working really hard on that, Camilla, I can tell you. We are rigidly focused on the things that will tackle with the flow of migration and stopping it from happening in the channel because it is good for no one. We are working on the powers that will smash those gangs, and believe me, we will do so.
Well, the French deal, I mean, we've paid the French nearly £500 million, 480 million, for what? French interceptions in the Channel are actually down on Labour's watch. They were 2 years ago 47%. Now they're only intercepting in 38% of cases. What on earth are we spending this taxpayers' cash on?
Well, that cash will be spent on delivery. Now, we have negotiated a deal.
Well, they're not delivering.
That deal that we've negotiated with them is now... That deal that we've negotiated is now being implemented, and we're in the implementation phase. Now, there is a couple of issues there that are completely absurd, and we are working on it. For example, the French are tackling boats when they go into deep water. They are doing some work on the beach, but there is that crucial part of when they're in shallow water, for at the moment, they're not tackling. That is part of our agreement, but that part of the agreement has not yet been implemented. That's what we're working on. We have been in power for 10 or 11 months. We have rehabilitated our relationships with our global partners, and we are using them to deliver deals. 3 trade deals in just 1 month. And these negotiations and deals that we're doing with France on immigration, these are the sorts of things that we'll deliver. But you have to understand, we inherited a broken asylum seeker system. We inherited a system where there was an experiment with open borders.
Let's move on to trade deals.
It can't be done overnight, but believe me, we are striving to make sure we deliver for the country in the way the previous government simply didn't care about.
On trade deals, there's a report this morning that the UK-US trade deal is being stalled because White House has grave concerns about plans for a Chinese super embassy in London. Now, Yvette Cooper and David Lammy are perfectly happy about this Chinese super embassy. Donald Trump isn't.
No, the trade deal is not being stalled. Again, we negotiated, and we were the first country in the world to negotiate a deal with the Trump administration, which made sure we were protected against some of the increases in tariffs that we've seen, but also gives new opportunities into the future. But what we're seeing is that being implemented. Now, America has raised concerns about the Chinese embassy. The Chinese embassy is going through the planning process at the moment, and part of that planning process is nailing down on security. And I want to reassure your listeners and viewers, because I know that your viewers care about these issues. We are very used as a country to dealing with the security challenges posed by some of the diplomatic activity that happens in our country. We are used to it, we work on it, and we do whatever it takes to make sure that people in our country are kept safe and secure. We have very, very good intelligence and law enforcement agencies in this country. They are world class. So we will reassure our American friends who might raise any questions about this.
Those agencies are against the super embassy.
The planning process is a rigorous one, and it takes into account all of the views of all interested parties.
OK, Peter Carr, we need to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. Well, I'm still amazed that the Chinese super embassy is going ahead, despite most people with any knowledge of intelligence saying it's a bad idea. But there you have it. Now, coming up next, I'm going to be speaking to Richard Tice, the Deputy Leader of Reform UK. He's going to be joining me, going to be asking him about what has been a very challenging week for the party. And I'll be speaking to Jeremy Hunt, Chris Philp and Greg Swenson on Trump and Musk. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Got about another month to go.
So why did you decide to do it? Because I'll tell you what strikes me as being particularly interesting is that most people will not be familiar to seeing someone in your garb sitting on a bus. I mean, you will become a talking point. Is that part of it?
Well, the central part is not me, of course. The central part is the Hospital of St Cross, where I live, which is an absolutely wonderful place to live. And I'm thoroughly enjoying myself there.
Can I ask you, Brother John, how much planning has gone into this? Because I have to say, if I was catching a bus all around the country, I'd be very, very anxious about routes, about where I can get on the bus and timings, all that kind of stuff. So how much work has gone in behind the scenes?
Well, I started before Christmas, and of course, the problem is that at that time it was the winter bus schedules, and then we have the spring bus schedules, and we're now moving into the summer bus schedules. So it's all a bit touch and go. It's when you go along, it's how you get on. But basically, the first thing to do was to establish it was possible to do. So I worked out all the routes round. And I have to say that my bus pass isn't valid in Scotland and Wales, but I have the support of the bus companies, bus operators, who are being very kind and generous and allowing me free passage in Scotland and Wales, where I wouldn't otherwise be covered.
Oh, that's fantastic news. And I have to say, though you look in excellent health and fair fettle, 85...
But I don't have a tattoo, you see. I don't have a tattoo.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. Right, we want to hear from Richard Tice. We're getting him mic'd up now. He's not in the studio because he's been doing other broadcasting. And we also want to talk about Musk and Trump. So to do that, I'm going to be joined by... Oh, there's eyes on Richard. So shall we go to Richard now? Are you ready? Not yet, no? All right, Greg. Greg Swenson is the chair of the Republicans Overseas Group. And you're going to be talking to me about Trump anyway on the show. We've brought you in now so that we can get Richard Tice prepared at our remote location. Greg, let's do one question, and I think the Deputy Leader of the Reform Party will be available, and then we'll come back to you to talk all things White House.
Yeah.
Trump versus Musk. What on earth has gone on there?
Yeah, it was quite dramatic, and I think it was the fact that it was played. It was understatement. It was and the fact that it was played out on social media and very visible, very public. And
it's embarrassing. Isn't it?
It is. It's unfortunate, and I think ultimately they kiss and make up, but. You know, this is a little spat between the richest man in the world and the most powerful man in the world.
Yeah, that's why it's scary. Hold that thought, Greg.
Go to Richard.
Tice is ready.
Here we are.
We'll come back to all this. Don't worry, folks. We're going to be doing a section on Americana in just a moment. But Richard Tice, the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, joins me now. Mr. Tice, rapidly appearing in front of my camera.
Very good morning.
From your other position. Lovely to see you. What on earth has gone on here? Did Zia Youssef basically have a bit of a tantrum and has been calmed down by Uncle Nigel? What's gone on?
What's going on is that Zia is back. He's going to be running the Doge unit, and by his own admission, Zia's been working 24/7 for 11 months. And look, it's a very high-pressure job. He was doing the job of about 5 people brilliantly, but he was just exhausted. And so, you know, we're delighted that he's going to crack on. He's going to say, helping with the Doge unit. As we lift the lid on the bonnet of council spending and the 10 councils that we control, we're already seeing huge areas of waste, incompetence, and sometimes I regret to say a bit of fraud here and there. And we're going to, you know, we're going to stop that, and that's what Zia is going to focus on.
We'll get onto Doge in a minute.
And look,
we'll get onto Doge in a minute. Hang on, Richard. Sorry, just to go back slightly. Hang on. We're going to talk about Scotland and Doge. Just on Youssef, and then we'll be done with this. You say he was doing 5 jobs. Now you've given him 4 jobs. Maybe you should just give the man a holiday and regroup. I mean, you're overworking him.
Well, he's had a 2-day holiday and he's back raring to go, Camilla. So, no, look, but actually, the chairman is, you know, we're splitting up a number of different activities in a fast-growing party. It's, you know, it's very often that, not surprising that, you know, you're just pushing on at pace and you sort of, in a sense, don't realise just how demanding it is and the pressure and the politics. And I regret to say that Zia had received horrendous online abuse, which was just appalling. And, you know, this does take its toll.
Where's that coming from, that online abuse? Was it in the aftermath of the Rupert Lowe row? Is it Reform supporters that don't like Zia Youssef for whatever reason? Who are these people abusing him?
Wherever it's coming from, it's horrid, it's vile, and you know, I'm very sorry for Zia, but you know, politics, it can be an awful game, and some of that abuse is just awful, and I just hope it stops.
Have you found a new chairman yet? I know we're going to get an announcement in the week, but has somebody already been chosen?
Well, patience is a virtue, all in good time, but you know, we've got lots to talk about. We're talking about the. Well, just patience is a virtue, Camilla. That's all I'll say.
All right. And then how about, finally, just on this saga, the Sunday Telegraph leader today saying Farage now has to show his party can grow up. It's not wrong, is it?
Hey, listen, we're leading the national polls, so I think actually we're growing all the time. And also in the Sunday Telegraph, my letter to the Governor of the Bank of England saying you shouldn't be wasting tens of billions of pounds of taxpayers' cash voluntarily enriching city institutions, paying interest on the quantitative easing money. You shouldn't be doing what they call quantitative tightening. Also, another voluntary decision, negligent decision, wasting tens of billions of pounds. And what this is doing, it's actually driving up the cost of government debt by about 0.5% plus or minus, which is also billions of pounds more extra cost of taxpayers' cash. I'm the only one that's calling this out. I'm demanding a meeting with the Governor of the Bank of England and his colleagues on the MPC. You know, when you're short of cash, you should stop wasting it. And if we stop wasting money in the back office, then guess what? We can invest more money on better frontline services.
Is Andrew Bailey fit for purpose?
Well, I just want him to do a really good job on behalf of the British taxpayer and not waste money enriching city institutions. And that's why I'm calling it out. I just don't think he's been properly scrutinised and challenged by the Treasury Select Committee, who haven't been asking the right questions. And it's not right that unelected officials should make big strategic decisions on quantitative easing and quantitative tightening with no debate, no challenge, no scrutiny in the Commons and as I say, amongst the parliamentarians. And that's what I'm trying to instigate. And I think it's completely the right thing to do.
Is this you pitching to be the next Chancellor? Would you like to be Chancellor if Reform UK win the next election?
This is me pitching. Well, I definitely want Reform UK to win the next election.
Do you want to be Chancellor,
I understand about money and finance and business. Well, that's a decision for the boss. When Nigel's Prime Minister, he'll make his decisions. And, of course, I serve at the boss's pleasure. But the reality is that I'm the only one who's calling out this waste of spending, tens of billions of pounds every single year. Yeah. Economists agree with me. Former deputy governors of the Bank of England agree with me. Once again, Tice is right.
Talking about a waste of spending, why on earth is Nigel Farage wanting to scrap the two-child benefit cap when it's got the support of 6 in 10 Brits? People think it's a good idea to limit the amount of benefits given to people having children, not least because the benefits bill has shot up by a staggering 89 billion in the last decade.
So what we should look at it is in the round. We've got to make people work. If you can work, you should work. So we need to dramatically scale back those who are choosing a lifestyle choice to be on benefits, but as part of an overall family-friendly package of benefits, and we need more British-born children to reduce the demands on pressure on immigration. In the round, this is the right thing to do. We need to get people back into work, and we need more British-born children. And as part of an overall package, we believe this is the right thing to do, and it's good to talk about it.
Don't we need more children in general? The birth rate has gone down from the traditional 2.4, when both you and I were little ones running around, to now under 1.7. Doesn't matter who's having the children, we just need the population to go up. Or are you saying that you only want indigenous Brits to be having children in this country?
What I'm saying is I want more children born in Britain so that you reduce the pressure on bringing people in from overseas, and we need people to realise that work is a good thing and stop paying millions of people to sit at home and not be in work. You've got to make work pay, and you've also got to make it, you want a world-leading benefit system that only that targets the genuinely disabled, the genuinely vulnerable, and those genuinely seeking work. At the moment, we've just got almost a sort of an online free-for-all, and it's just not good enough.
Would you cut benefits for people seeking them for mental health problems?
Look, serious mental health is a really, really difficult horrific illness, but there are far too many people, frankly, who need to develop a lot more resilience. And you know, for many people, one of the best cures for what they perceive as being a bit of mental health is actually get busy, get up, get out, go to work, get on, and that's a good thing. It's good for your soul, it's good for your self-dignity, it's good for your family, good, for example, to your children, and it's good for your local community. Family, community, country, that's what we stand for.
So it sounds like you don't support, for instance, personal independence payments, PIP, for people with anxiety, mild depression, conditions like autism and ADHD. Is that a fair summary?
A fair summary is that I think we need to develop a bit more resilience amongst lots of people, and it's become too easy for too many people to make a lifestyle choice. They're having a bad day, having a bad week, maybe it's a bit of mental health, maybe I'll go and try and claim it. And that's not good enough. If you can work, you should work. It's a great thing, and it's good for your mental health.
Back to your idea about a British baby boom. Is it a problem if immigrants are having babies in this country over the course of the next years?
Look, I just think we've got to focus on more British-born children. That is a good thing. As you said, the demographic numbers have gone completely in the wrong direction. Having a family-friendly income tax arrangement so that mums and dads can share part of their income tax allowance, that's a good thing. And encouraging more children, but also encouraging people back into work. This is a sensible package, and that's the right thing to do. And then we reduce the ever-increasing demand from the the elite and the establishment and the globalists who say, no, we've got to have mass, cheap, low-skilled immigration because we don't want to train up our own people. That's completely wrong, and we stand for improving prosperity for British citizens.
But when you talk about British-born, are you reflecting Professor Matt Goodwin's research during the week, that white minority report? Are you concerned about that, Mr. Tice, this idea that white British people could be in a minority in this country by 2063? Is that why you're saying more British people should have babies?
Yeah, the reality is, yes, we want more British people to be able to feel that they can, they can grow a family. And that's a very good thing. I've not studied Mr. Goodwin's research in details. It may or may not be accurate based on whatever assumptions, who knows. But look, at the end of the day, let's just focus on making people better off. And the way you do that is encouraging work, encouraging risk-taking from entrepreneurs, and that's how you encourage economic growth, and I think it's a really good thing. And I just repeat this thing, it's really important. Family, community, that leads to a better country, and that's our values, that's what we stand for. And funnily enough, it seems to be resonating. We're leading the polls, and we nearly caused a huge upset in Scotland in the by-election on Thursday night, in what was we've caused a seismic shock to Scottish politics, despite all the ridiculous, beastly, nasty words they said about us.
I know.
Guess what? The slogan "Drill Scotland, Drill" seems to be resonating.
All right, but you just said there, you were just about to say it was a 3-horse race, when last week you were briefing that it was going to be a 2-horse race between Reform and the SNP. I mean, with everything that the Labour government has been doing wrong, which you have been pointing out on a daily basis, Richard Tice, quite staggering to see Keir Starmer's party win in Scotland. I thought you were meant to be coming second. What went wrong?
Well, look, you had 3 parties within 750 people's votes. So this was a 3-way marginal, and yes, it was like a photo finish, to be honest. And yes, at the last minute, Labour just got their nose ahead at the photo finish. But I tell you what, the SNP and Labour, they are a coalition of the terrified in Scotland as we head towards the Holyrood elections next May. Who knows? We're going to push on, and I think we could surprise lots of people.
Maybe a coalition of the right should come together in Scotland to beat the coalition of the terrified. Because if you added up Reform and the Tories' rather dismal vote, but a vote nonetheless, in Hamilton, you would have beaten the Labour Party, wouldn't you? So aren't there examples of some pockets of the UK where you do need a pact, and Scotland is one of them, and probably also maybe even Wales?
No, what we're seeing is that vote Tory, get Labour. They should have stood aside, and if those votes had come to us, then yes, we would have won that election. So
you could also say vote Reform and get Labour, couldn't you?
You were saying that I was the problem. No. This time last year you were saying vote Reform, get Labour. Now I've proven to you, Camilla, that actually you were wrong. Vote Tory, get Labour. Vote Reform, get Reform. That's the reality. That's the way
or you
that
could
politics
say,
is now emerging. And guess what? We're leading in the polls. We're 7 or 8% ahead.
But you could say vote for 2 different parties on the right and the left wins. I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? If you're a righty and you're undecided between the Tories and Reform, you don't want to see 4 more years of Starmer, because Richard Tice and Nigel Farage can't be pragmatists with Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick.
Competition's a great thing, and we are leaving the Tories now. They're becoming essentially a minor, disappearing old party, and that's fine. We're replacing them,
and yet,
the Prime Minister is terrified of Reform.
And yet, Kemi Badenoch's going further than Reform and the Burka, isn't she? I mean, you have this internal squabble because someone decides that they might want to suggest banning the Burka. Everyone in Reform, suddenly there's a tantrum, and Youssef strolls out and all the rest of it. Badenoch, to her credit, has said, actually, I think we should consider banning it in the workplace. Then when it comes to Trump-style travel bans, again, Nigel Farage says, I don't think we can touch anything that right-wing. And Kemi Badenoch says, the Conservatives will consider it. Are you being outgunned by Kemi Badenoch, of all people, on some of these issues?
nonsense. What we've done is we've triggered a national debate, and we're delighted. That's exactly what we want to do. Once again, the Tories are floundering, so they're having to copy reform, and Kemi's catching up. Look, that's fine. I mean, she said that we were just a fan club. I think Kemi's just jealous that she hasn't got any fans at all, and she's sort of copying us. That's fine. Look, it's done for them. Certainly in Scotland, as we saw this week, we're leading in the polls. We're setting the agenda, and we're showing people how to save tens of billions of pounds by the Bank of England.
I'm completely
You're
unclear
unclear.
on
Well,
burkas.
I'm pretty
Do
clear.
you want to ban them or not? Yes or no, Richard Tice?
We're having we've triggered a national discussion. I'm very concerned about them. Frankly, I think they are repressive. I think that they make women second-class citizens. We're a Christian nation. We have equality between the sexes, and I'm very concerned with them. And if someone wants to convince me otherwise, well, come and talk to me. But at the moment, my view is that I think we should follow 7 other nations across Europe that have already banned them. If they thought it was a good idea, they had a national debate. Let's ask them why. And sometimes we actually have to learn from. We have to learn from other nations.
Well, have we got an exclusive on GBNews? Richard Tice wants to ban the burqa.
Now, Camilla, I'm repeating the language I've used for the last 3 days, which is I'm very concerned about it in a Christian nation. And the truth is, how many of the women who wear a burqa wear it out of their own choice or because they're forced to? And that's not how we do things in the United Kingdom.
I get all of the arguments. I'm just asking you a simple yes or no question. Your colleague, Sarah Pochin, tabled this in the House of Commons. You're the Deputy Leader of Reform. You've had an internal party row. Yes or no, do you think the burqa should be banned? It's such a straightforward question.
It is very straightforward. We've triggered a debate, which is great, and I've just said to you, I'm very concerned about it. I don't think that
yes?
It's right for the UK, and I think no one's convinced me otherwise. But I'm happy to have a debate. Let's trigger a debate first of all. And here's the thing, Camilla,
like
you
you
don't
need
have
a
to have a
debate.
policy as a party on every single thing.
But you sound like
we
you've got
absolutely
all
do
of
need
the
a debate.
But you sound like you've made up your mind. So why not just say now, with me, in answer to my straight yes
Camilla,
or no question?
I've literally just said to you, I want people to try and convince me otherwise. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm very concerned about it. Let's have that debate. Let's hear where the country's mood is. It may be different to these 7 other European nations that have already banned it. Let's talk about it. Let's have that debate. That's a great thing. That's what you do in a democracy. You embrace free speech and talk about stuff and then make a decision.
Just so I've got my head around it, I've got my head around it, because I don't think anyone knows at the moment where Reform as a party stands on banning the burqa. We know where Sarah Pochin stands.
I've literally just said to you, we've triggered a debate.
Do you want to you think we should ban it and you'd like to be persuaded otherwise, but if you're not, you would advocate a ban. Is that where you are?
Yeah, if people don't convince me otherwise, then I'm for banning it. But as I say, I'm happy to have the debate. I'm happy to listen to other side of the story. And I repeat the point, you don't have to have a party policy on everything in order to trigger a national discussion, a bit of a debate, and that's what we've done. And now you've got the likes of Kemi Baden not copying us, and that's fine. We lead the way. That's what we do at Reform.
All right, Richard Tice, thank you very much indeed. You've been very generous with your time this morning, and I'm grateful. Thank you. Well, we're going to get more from Greg Swenson next, who gave me one answer to one question, but there's much, much more to discuss when it comes to Donald Trump. Do stay tuned. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here
We do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Joining me again in the studio is Greg Swenson. He's the chairman of Republicans Overseas UK. Greg, sorry, we were cut short when Richard Tice appeared on screen. But we're talking about Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And you had answered the question by saying, look, they're two very idiosyncratic personalities. Yeah. One's the world's richest man, the other man's the world's most powerful man. This deleted tweet now, or ex-post as we can now call it, Musk kind of links Donald Trump to the Jeffrey Epstein files, then he deletes it. What's going on there, Greg?
I think he was smart to delete it because that could lead to some, I mean, ultimately, if they don't kiss and make up, some kind of defamation argument.
Yes.
Because it was, I think it was a mistake. It was just Elon having a tantrum. It's, you know, that it's very public information since 2021 that all this information about President Trump and Epstein is out there.
Yes.
And so if there was any damning evidence in the Epstein files, I guarantee you,
it would be in the public eye already. Yeah.
Biden would have released that.
Trump denies any wrongdoing. There's no suggestion of any wrongdoing.
And
like many people, he's in Epstein's Rolodex. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole cast of thousands in it.
A lot of powerful people were friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. President Trump was very deliberate about this. First of all, he threw him out of Mar-a-Lago as soon as he was accused of the crimes in the first decade of this century. And secondly, there's 20 years of flight logs, and President Trump only flew on Epstein's plane once. It was not to Epstein Island, and he had his wife and child on the plane. So I think the president's got a clean slate there.
But that ex-post, like so much of this row made public, is totally unedifying.
Right.
As a respectable, sensible Republican, you must find it quite cringeworthy.
Yeah, it's part of this kind of new generation of Republicans, and it's, you know, President Trump's not afraid to punch back, and that's one of the reasons he was elected twice, is that he, you know, I think the voters kind of like that. And sometimes it's very helpful, and sometimes it gets a little bit out of hand. But I do think that he is the most transparent president in my lifetime anyway. So this is something that the transparency sometimes gets a little uncomfortable.
Maybe there's too much transparency, Greg, at times.
So. Maybe a conversation behind closed doors would have been better.
Well, what is it with Trump, though, and his ability to very easily fall out with some of his closest confidants and aides? I mean, there's a kind of graveyard of former Trump advisors.
Right, but there's also a graveyard of Trump advisors that are still friends with him, too.
Yes.
It works both ways, and I think that's important for him to pivot and make decisions quickly. If he doesn't think someone's working out, he will fire them. This is coming after 4 years of President Biden where no one was fired. Maybe that's because they basically had photos of Biden, or you know, he was afraid of insider, telltale.
Yeah, they had the receipts, so to speak.
Exactly.
Not least now we know what we know about his failing health. In general, how do you think it's been going for Trump since he announced the tariffs? We've had talk of a tussle between Elon Musk and Scott Bessent, who's in charge of the Treasury in America. We've had talk of recession, and that's among Republican advisors. So this isn't the Democrats kind of, throwing mud. It's been problematic for him, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been volatile. And I think markets and even operating companies like certainty. They don't like uncertainty. They need clarity. And I think that's been difficult. It's probably necessary because doing this quietly and discreetly for a long time, and they say, use a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Well, that hasn't worked for 30 years. And so I think there really needed to be some disruption. Yes, there might be some one-time price adjustments. Yes, there's going to be negotiations. But look at the successes so far, even with the volatility. The markets are right back to where they were prior to Liberation Day. You've got Secretary of the Treasury, as you mentioned, Scott Bessent. He's here in London to speak with the Chinese, and so is Howard Lutnick. So, you have parties coming to the table. You had the U.S.-UK trade announcement a month ago. You've had 100 countries coming to Washington to get trade deals done. I'd like to see more of them, and these things take time.
Although we hear that UK-US trade deal might be stalled on the basis of concerns about this super embassy in London, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Greg, as an Anglophile. It's surely a mistake for the Labour government to be pushing for this embassy when you've got the Americans expressing concerns on our own security and police services.
Absolutely. I think it's a massive mistake, just like the Chagos Islands disaster. So
although Trump kind of rubber stamped that.
Yeah, I know. I think because he's not paying for it. So the British taxpayers
the art of the deal.
Right.
If I'm not paying and it's the UK's problem, then fair enough.
Yeah.
But on this super embassy, do you think that will scupper this US-UK trade deal?
Well, it's tough for me to say at this point, but I think it's a problem, absolutely, and it has to be addressed. And I think, this is part of the U.S. The United States has the biggest problem with China, but we need our trading partners, our allies, to also be on board with us, and I think that's important. The trade deficits that we suffer with China are massive, but the EU and even the UK also has trade deficits with China, but they make up for it by massive surpluses with the United States. So that's why he has to do something to correct the imbalances with the EU. The UK is in a much better position because they don't have any significant trade surpluses.
Do you think some Republicans are having buyer's remorse? I talk not only of the kind of economic shock of the tariffs, you're shaking your head already, also announcements like the travel ban.
Yeah.
There will be some on the left of your party, let's be honest. It's the same as the Conservatives. You get people who are very right-wing in the Republican movement and people who are quite wet by comparison. They might not like the idea of these travel bans, Greg.
Well, I think sometimes people forget that President Obama, who was a man of the left, had the same kind of travel bans. When President Trump did this in 2017 and the left and many of them, even moderate Republicans, were saying he's xenophobic, he's racist, he's Islamophobic. President Obama had Iraq, Iran, Sudan, and Syria on his list in December of 2015. In February of 16, he added Somalia, Yemen, and Libya. So these are, 7 of the same countries that President Trump banned.
It was the same when Obama had a quite rigorous attitude towards putting people
Trump
in Guantanamo.
is crushing it on immigration and stopping illegal migration. So,
final question. We've got to look ahead to the midterms. I don't know whether he will lose or gain popularity. But final question quickly, Greg. People are making up President Trump 2028 hats. Can he stand again?
No, and he doesn't want to. He's just playing with everybody.
All right, it's just a little bit of trickery.
Fun for him.
All right, Greg Swenson, thank you very much indeed for being here and for being here with Richard Tice plonked in the middle of your interview.
All good.
Much appreciated. Well, coming up next, we're going to be speaking to Jeremy Hunt about his new book on how to make Britain great again, to use that analogy, and we'll be speaking to the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp. Don't go anywhere.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
High pressure is in charge for much of Europe over the next couple of days, bringing plenty of dry, warm and sunny weather. However, there will still be 1 or 2 showers around, particularly across parts of Madeira, the Canary Islands, as we go through Monday afternoon. But elsewhere, high pressure in charge, bringing dry, sunny and some really warm weather over the next couple of days. We could see temperatures into the high 20s, perhaps even into the low 30s across parts of Spain, Portugal and across parts of Italy too. But plenty of sunshine is on the cards.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. After a very showery day for many of us on Saturday, there are further showers on the way through the rest of today. 1 or 2 isolated thunderstorms, but perhaps still a little breezy in places. However, it is still going to be a dry and bright start for the morning for many of us. A few isolated showers just lingering across the northeast coast for a time, and further showers pushing in from the west. And in the afternoon sunshine, we could see some further showers bubbling up across central parts of England and Wales. As I say, 1 or 2 of these could be heavy in places, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder, but definitely a notch down compared to what we saw on Saturday. And feeling a little more pleasant in the sunshine too, highs of 19 or 20 degrees in the south. As we then go through Sunday evening, we will still see some showers around. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, these will be very light and scattered, and there'll be plenty of late sunshine as well. However, across parts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, we could still see 1 or 2 heavier downpours as we go through Sunday evening. Scotland could also see some heavy downpours as we go through the evening period. 1 or 2 rumbles of thunder are likely too, but there will still be some clear spells between those showers to end the day on Sunday. As we then go through Sunday evening, those showers continue to push their way eastwards through the evening period, turning drier from the southwest into the early hours of Monday morning. Still 1 or 2 showers just feeding in across the very far north and west of Scotland, but it should be a dry night for most of us, plenty of clear spells and perhaps turning a little chilly in some rural spots as we go into the start of Monday, although towns and cities are generally holding up into the high single figures. But another dry and bright start for many of us on Monday morning, plenty of early sunshine on offer. 1 or 2 showers again bubbling up through the afternoon, but these are notched down compared to what we saw over the weekend. However, turning cloudier across parts of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, as we see an area of rain arriving through the afternoon. And feeling a little warmer in the sunshine across the south too, with highs of 20, 21, perhaps even 22 degrees.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back. Joining me now in the studio is Jeremy Hunt, the former Foreign Secretary and Chancellor of the Exchequer, with his new book, Can We Be Great Again? Now, I'm terrible at, but move the mug. Can you see it there? You're picking it up on fire. There we are. I'm never good at promoing books because I always get the wrong camera.
I bought my own copy just in case.
I know, all right. Well, we can play snap with it later. Now, what's happened to you? You've left the Cabinet and now become a staunch righty when you previously had a reputation for being slightly wetter than you are appearing in this text. Is that fair?
That may be my reputation, and, you know, I don't want to rewrite my time in government, but what I would say is that I did get really annoyed in government about how down we were as a country about ourselves, and particularly when I was Foreign Secretary. I don't know if you've ever been into the Foreign Secretary's office.
I have too. I actually visited Boris Johnson when he was your predecessor.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it, that office? It's huge. It's amazing oak-panelled walls. And I think every Foreign Secretary asks themselves, is this just an imperial delusion? Or are we actually a great country? And I think we are a great country, but we've lost our mojo.
Doesn't feel like it at the moment.
Doesn't. And I totally get the fact that ordinary people feel that their lives are not great. And by the way, I'm sure my government made mistakes as well. But when you look at the big problems the world faces, whether it's Putin in Ukraine or the future of democracy and the rise of China or the migration crisis, actually the UK could really help solve some of these problems.
Can I grasp the nettle now and say that people watching this and listening to it may be seething? They may be watching and saying, this happened because of 14 years of inadequate Tory rule, which only pushed up our household bills, pushed up our taxes, while you were Chancellor as well, pushed up government spending, kowtowed to a load of DEI, woke nonsense. Immigration shot up when you said it would come down. This is what's happened. Unfortunately, we saw David Cameron become the heir to Blair, and you didn't change what had set in under the last Labour government, and now we've got this Labour government giving everything the Tories did rocket fuel. And they won't forgive you for that, regardless of you writing this book or now saying, actually, maybe some stuff we did was a bad idea.
Well, this book is not about, trying to justify the Conservatives' record. On immigration in particular, we got things wrong. On the economy, I would disagree with your analysis. I think we got a lot right as it happened. We created, I think, 800 jobs for every single day that we were in office. Compare that to what's happening now under Rachel Reeves. But this is a book, actually, it's something slightly different. We have been through a miserable patch as a country because in that period that we were in office, we had 3 massive global shocks. We had the global financial crisis, COVID, a 1970s energy shock. And what that's meant is that we have, we've been knocked for 6. But I actually think we are a fantastic country. I'll just give you one example. We've got this migration crisis at the moment, and I think Labour will rue the day that they cancelled the Rwanda scheme. They probably already are. But, which are the countries that everyone is trying to get into? It's not Russia. It's not China. They're trying to get into Europe and North America because actually...
Well, they're trying to get here because they think we're an easy touch and that we'll give them a 3-star hotel and taxpayer funds. And they're right, aren't they? I mean, I'd come here.
And we've got to sort that out. But hang on, what's the solution here? We need to, rip up the international law that is making us a soft touch.
Do we? Are you saying we should leave
we
the
need to rip it
ECHR?
up, rewrite it. Well, yeah, I'll tell you something. If we have to, in the end, I would support leaving it. But that won't stop the boats crossing the Mediterranean and trying to cross the Channel. What we actually have is a global migration crisis. And I'll say one thing, Keir Starmer is a human rights lawyer. No one knows this law better than he does. He is actually very well positioned to get out there and say, look, the ECHR was written in the 1940s when we wanted to make sure that...
He's not going to do that because he thinks international law trumps domestic law. He always has.
But he should read the book and he should say, hang on, I am the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
You sent him a copy?
I have, actually. And he could actually solve this. Likewise on defence.
All right.
We've got Putin doing what he's doing in Ukraine, and we've got Trump who could pull out of NATO. Britain is the biggest defence power in Europe. Let's get on and sort out this problem and back Ukraine.
Are you saying that were it not for those 3 events that you cited, COVID included, that the tax burden on your watch wouldn't have risen to 37% and government spending wouldn't have risen to 45%?
Absolutely, I am. I mean, we spent £400 billion supporting businesses and families during the pandemic. I think that was the right thing to do. But, there is a bill to be paid. But what I wanted to do, Camilla, and I said to Alistair Heath in an interview recently, I think...
Editor of the Sunday Tell, for the uninitiated.
Yes. I said that one of my biggest failings as Chancellor was I did start to bring down taxes, those national insurance cuts, but I didn't get across to people that a Conservative government really wants to get taxes back down. Yes, we had to put them up because of the pandemic. We want to get them down. We made a start. And, if there's one thing that I think the book talks about is that if we're going to be powerful in the world, we've got to have a strong economy. And that means getting out of this doom loop that we seem to be in with Rachel Reeves right now of ever higher taxes and ever lower growth.
I mean, people might say, look, you supported lockdown and now you're ruining the fact that it caused so much economic calamity.
Well, what I supported, actually, was what they did in Korea and Taiwan, where they had much better test and trace, and they didn't have to have a lockdown at all in the first year. That was what I did.
Can we talk about the welfare budget? Because you are suggesting it should be slashed by a radical 50 billion. How?
Well, it's actually, it's never easy, but it's not quite as impossible as it sounds, because that is the level it was just 5 years ago, before the pandemic. If we got the working age benefit bill down to the levels of 2019, that would save £49 billion.
Would you advocate cutting benefits for people with mental health problems, unless very serious?
People who've got mental health problems, that's the heart of where the problem is. We need to treat them, not to sign them off. Do you know, every year we are signing off 80,000 people a year. And we're not just saying you don't have to work, we're saying you don't even have to look for work. And more than half of those are mental health.
I know, but when you were the Health Secretary, we had this parity of esteem, so to speak, between mental health and physical health. That's created an environment where people think they are entitled to benefits if they have mental health problems. Are you saying they shouldn't claim personal independence payments and such like if they've got anxiety or mild depression?
We absolutely need to completely change the way we treat mental health in the benefits system. Now, what I did as Health Secretary was massively boost the amount of mental health the NHS is providing, and I think that was the right thing to do. I think we're treating about 2 million more people every year than we were then as a result. But in the benefits system, if you're saying that you've got anxiety or depression, every doctor I've met will say that the thing you need is social contact, and signing people out of the world of work is the worst possible thing. Another thing, by the way, which would be an absolute disaster, which is being talked about now, is getting rid of this two-child cap on benefits, because that would creates an incentive for people to have large families living off welfare. That actually creates more poverty, not less poverty.
OK. Final question. Is Badenoch doing well enough? She's not cutting through, is she? Robert Jenrick, meanwhile, is a social media king, seemingly.
I don't think anyone would have been able to do better. We've had 4 leaders in 4 years. I think we would lose all credibility if we kept on chopping and changing. What we do need to do, though, as a party, is we've had a year of what you might call contrition after our worst ever defeat. We now need to move on to what oppositions should do, which is ideas and solutions. And those solutions, Camilla, by the way, after last week, they are not coming from reform. They proposed £80 billion of tax cuts that are unfunded. That would crash the economy. And, you know,
are those solutions coming from Mel Stride in slagging off Liz Truss, or from James Cleverly in going against Badenoch in saying, no, actually, we should stick to net zero? This isn't helpful, is it?
Well, I'll tell you what I hope might be helpful when it comes to Britain's role in the world, some of the ideas in this book. Because what I'm saying is we can be a big, powerful country on the world stage. Let's get our mojo back.
All right, mojo back to... You don't mean bring Boris back, do you, Jeremy Hunt?
No, I just said I think we should
it's
row him behind Kemi.
Mojo and bojo was just in my mind there. Throw Boris behind Kemi. Good grief. Here we are. Can we be great again? Let's jolly well hope so, Jeremy Hunt. And thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. Well, coming up next, we're going to be speaking to the Conservatives because Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, will be joining us. Don't go anywhere.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Are these two things linked? Is an excess of belly fat perhaps hindering our children's education?
Good morning. So you're quite right. It's not the actual belly fat that is causing the brain problem. It's more that what causes the belly fat to exist is also causing issues in the brain, essentially. So the belly fat is almost a side effect, and so is the reduced learning, the memory, the mood issues that we're seeing in the brain. So it's very important to understand that those two things are correlated, and actually the problems that go behind it are what we need to target. It's not just about, we're not just trying to body shame young people, we're actually trying to look at what are the cofactors, essentially. So that could be sleep, lack of exercise, overuse of technology, loneliness, would you believe it? And of course, diet.
The headline essentially has run away with itself. It's conflating the two and making it sound like belly fat is an issue for our children's education, when in reality, it's a matter of actually we need to be encouraging healthier habits, a better diet, more sleep, as you mentioned, loneliness, for example. Is it healthy, though, for these headlines to suggest, like you said, potential for body shaming, potential for, you know, parents getting the wrong impression? Is that what the real issue here is?
I mean, everything has a positive and a negative side. If any parent looks at this and thinks, oh my gosh, I'm seeing my child is getting a little bit podgier around the middle, I need to do something, and kicks them into action. And same with children, you know, it's not a bad idea to inform them and educate them about diet and exercise, and it's good to know about those things.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Welcome back. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, will be popping up in just a jiffy. But before we speak to him, we're going to speak with Michael Portillo, whose show is coming up at 11. Michael, what have you got coming up?
Good morning, Camilla. I'm going to be asking whether the drone has changed modern warfare and whether the British government has noticed. I'm going to be talking about an extraordinary fellow who was a British agent in Moscow. He became a friend of Trotsky and Lenin, and then, amazingly, he plotted to bring them down and, by the way, got away with it. And I'll be talking to a slalom canoeist, a potential Olympian, who apparently has been banned from his sport because of his OnlyFans account, which apparently is quite edgy.
Yes, I've heard about this OnlyFans account and how athletes now are having to earn a sideline. Is it something we should consider, Michael? If we fall on hard times, there may be a market for us.
There's a market.
You never know.
There's a market for you, Camilla. I don't think I can enter into this sphere, but I think it's a serious point. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to ask the canoeist whether he knew about a code of conduct. I mean, there's a code of conduct which it says that athletes should not be involved in obscenity, but I'll be asking him whether he was involved in obscenity. But, you know, he gets fairly small amounts of money from an organisation called Paddle UK, and becoming an Olympian is a very expensive business. And who's to say that you're not allowed to use your physique, to put it that way, to make some money along the way? I think it raises quite an interesting ethical question.
It does too, and I wonder whether it's also got anything to do with lottery funding. Are athletes getting as much of it?
Indeed. I mean, we want our people to do as well as possible. And, well, it'd be interesting to know what our viewers think about whether a person who, you know, has a good body should be banned from using that body to make a living. I mean, particularly if the money that he raises in this way means that actually the British taxpayer has to fund him less. By the way, we'll also be asking about what is terrorism. That's our ethical question of the day. President Putin wants to describe Ukrainians as terrorists. What is a terrorist? Is a terrorist simply a violent person of whom we disapprove? Is there any other sort of definition? I'll be asking also whether this Labour government has lurched to the left. We've seen lots of announcements about extra public spending. What happened to the Iron Chancellor exactly? And we've also got a very interesting history of the English language. How was it that the English language went from being something that was spoken by, you know, a few tribespeople in a marshy land somewhere in the middle of England to being a language which is now understood by 1.5 billion people and has been such an engine of art, of literature and of communication?
Your question about terrorism is really interesting as we wait to hear from Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, Michael, because there was a really interesting story in the Telegraph yesterday, I don't know if you caught it, about the Prevent programme. Now, that's the government programme set up to prevent terrorism. Apparently, get this, if you voice concern about migration, you are spouting extreme right-wing terrorist ideology.
Yes, I mean, that's a slightly different topic from the one I want to discuss today, but it's nonetheless an extremely important one. I mean, I think the question there is, how is it that these public agencies that we set up with such good intentions, one after another, are diverted and, I think, corrupted? I mean, I think it's quite dangerous to have an agency which is there to prevent people from becoming radicalised, to be diverted and sidetracked in this way, because it means that valuable resources that should be spent trying to keep us safe are being splurged on things which have nothing to do with keeping us safe, which have to do basically with wokery. I mean, there's hardly a person in the country who isn't concerned about migration. Therefore, that is self-evidently not an indicator of radicalism, nor does it suggest that a person is likely to be radicalised. And I just wish I knew the answer to how government of any persuasion could get hold of these agencies and try to make them do what Parliament intended them to do in the first place, which is to keep us safe in this case.
Well, there's an irony here, Michael, because it seems as if these agencies are being radicalised from within with wokery. Although we may remember you talk about the Labour government lurching leftwards. Of course, if we think back to Keir Starmer's career and his protestations on immigration from yesteryear, he did once suggest that there was something inherently racist about controlling Britain's borders.
Yes, and now he's saying other things which have upset his left wing. But the other things he's saying now, the way he's talked with some urgency about the migration problem, would suggest that, Prevent might well want to consider him as being someone who could be radicalised.
OK.
That is completely mad, obviously.
Michael, thank you very much. Chris Philp is now with us. The Shadow Home Secretary joins us from our location. Lovely to see you, Mr Philp. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. It's actually just talking to Michael Portillo there about this extraordinary story on Prevent. I don't know if you read it in the Telegraph yesterday. There is a paragraph in the Prevent literature and guidance which suggests that if you voice concerns about migration, you're an extreme right-wing terrorist. What is going on with Prevent, and is it fit for purpose, Chris Philp?
Good morning, Camilla. Yes, I did read that, as exposed by the Telegraph. I think it's absolutely outrageous that the guidance and the training say that. It is deeply offensive and ridiculous and wrong to suggest that raising concerns about mass migration is somehow extremist. It is completely reasonable to have a debate about immigration levels and indeed to make the case, as I do, and I think as you do as well, that the numbers need to be a much dramatically lower than they have been.
Okay.
And it's equally reasonable to raise concerns about integration as well. That guidance should be immediately scrapped.
All right. Mr Philp, we're really tight on time, so let's just rattle through a few other things. Why don't you just say we're definitely leaving the ECHR? You're still umming and ahhing. Haven't you decided now?
Well, we've said that in principle we do want to leave the ECHR because it is necessary in order to protect our borders, to kick out people that should be kicked out, including every single foreign criminal and anyone that crosses the channel illegally on a small boat. It's necessary to protect our veterans from vexatious prosecution, necessary to make sure we can do the oil and gas drilling that we need to do as well. So in principle, let me finish. In principle, we do want to leave. Hang on. So Camilla, we are going to take the next 2 or 3 months, no longer than that, the next 2 or 3 months, to go through the legal detail to make sure we've thought of all the angles. If there are issues to address, and there are some in Northern Ireland, we've got good answers to those questions. We'll announce the final position, I suspect, in the autumn, round about party conference time.
Okay.
So unlike Reform, who just shoot from the hip and say the first thing that comes into Nigel Farage's head, we are going to do the serious work to make sure the policy is credible and can be implemented. That is the difference between us and Reform.
Although you've got Lord Wolfson holding your review, and he said in 2023, I support membership of the ECHR.
Well, 2 things. I think lots of people have changed their mind about the ECHR in the last 2 or 3 years for a variety of reasons, not least, for example, the way that the court frustrated the last government's Rwanda removal plan. That was frustrated twice, once in Strasbourg and once in our own Supreme Court using the ECHR. That changed a lot of people's minds. And we've seen so far, 2025 this year, the worst year in history for illegal immigrants crossing the English Channel. So a lot of people have changed their mind. And I'll also say what Lord Wolfson is being asked to do is provide a technical legal analysis. The decision is a matter for the leader and for the shadow cabinet. But anyway, I'm clear about the principles. We are going to do whatever it takes, including leaving, to protect our country's borders.
All right. Kemi Badenoch has suggested that the burqa should be banned in the workplace. Why not just ban the burqa, as many European and indeed Muslim states already have done?
Look, I think there is a legitimate debate to have there. You've got obviously on the one side arguments about freedom of choice, personal liberty, that I think are important arguments. On the other side, of course, you've got questions about social integration, barriers being put up between people, and obviously the possibility of coercion, either direct or indirect as well. Look, I think that is a debate we need to have, weighing up those different considerations, and it's certainly a topic we're going to give a lot of serious thought to. It's probably not the biggest issue facing our country, and you know, France bans the burqa, but they've got you know, very serious problems with integration, as we saw from those riots a week or two ago. So we shouldn't think of it as a silver bullet.
Speaking personally, do you want to ban it, yes or no, or are you undecided?
Look, I'm giving it some thought. I do think, Camilla, that as a free country where we do value personal liberty, that is an important thing to have in mind. But it's a complicated question, and we need to think about it.
OK. Badenoch has also suggested that she would perhaps consider Trump-style travel bans on individual countries if she was the next Prime Minister. Which country would you ban first?
Well, I think she was talking about the principle. We're not going to start announcing individual countries, but there are, you know, it's obviously a power that we could exercise if we chose to, if we thought the threat, either the security threat was sufficiently serious or there were other issues. What we do want to do is get immigration right down, legal immigration right down, to make sure that the only people who come into this country, regardless of which nationality they are people who are going to work in very highly skilled, highly paid industries like, you know, finance, technology, scientific research and that kind of thing. The days of mass low-skill migration must end, and one of the ways we can do that is have a binding annual cap on immigration that Parliament would vote for every year at a much lower level than we've seen recently. But when we put that system to a vote in Parliament just a few weeks ago, Labour voted against it.
Have you got a number on that cap yet, Chris Philp?
We're working on that number, and I'll tell you this, Camilla, it will be a lot lower than anything we've seen recently, a lot lower.
All right, and final question. Mel Stride shouldn't be slagging off Liz Truss, should he?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Mel Stride shouldn't be slagging off Liz Truss, should he? Finally, Chris Philp, 10 seconds.
I didn't quite catch that, but I think Mel Stride said that Liz Truss made mistakes in that mini-budget, and she did make mistakes, and Mel was very clear that a future Conservative administration will never make those mistakes again. We've seen Nigel Farage recently doing like Liz Truss on steroids, but with all these tax cut promises and spending increase promises, adding up to over 100 billion without a single idea, not one idea, about how he's actually going to pay for that.
We need to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. I'm back next week at 9:30. Thank you to all my guests today. Don't forget, Michael Portillo's got a great show, and he's up next. But first, I think we're getting a little bit of weather.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over.